Down, Lift Up. And today's topic is how do you overcome procrastination? Or maybe not. Maybe you procrastinate on overcoming procrastination. Well, I think it's a topic that is really relevant based on my conversations with others lately. And this could be feeding into the whole concept around languishing. And we talked about that last week and being on the brink of burnout. And just not really having that same juju that you do have. And so I'm going to talk about procrastination. And if it helps you in any way, fantastic. The moment I realized that this was going to be today's topic was actually as I was procrastinating on figuring out this week's topics. So, hmm, funny how I teach from my own life, don't I? It's just part of it. And you know what? Zero judgment here. Because if you're someone who is going through whatever it is we're going through, for some people, it's really hard. And I am not going to be the person who pretends like it's not. Like, I know I teach this stuff and I have all the tools, I have all the thinking, I have years of going in and practicing this stuff and helping other people do it. And I'm still having challenges, right? Like, this weekend, I feel like I didn't really get the oomph that I would normally get. And so, anyway, I really hope this works for you and helps you in some small way, or ideally in a great big way. Okay, so that'll be awesome. Funny, my Yeti mic is not working. Figure that out before tomorrow. Okay, so let's discuss procrastination. So the first thing is we got to know that sensation in our bodies of how does it show up for you? What is happening with your procrastination? And why is it happening? I'm such a huge believer. Situational awareness, self-awareness, then solution activation. And so often with these different lives that I do, I'm actually talking about the solution activation. Okay, instead of going back, if you and I were coaching together one on one, or we were going in depth in some training, we'd be talking about the situational awareness and the self awareness so that you can get the absolute best, for your situation. And by the way, if you have tips for other people, please put it in the comments because I'd love to hear from you how you deal with this as well. So, what's going on? Because there are many reasons that we could be procrastinating. And in the promo for this, I shared a poster that used to hang in the dance studio. And it was this ballerina leaning up against the bar, blowing this big bubble gum with her like point shoe sort of, you can't see my feet, but just sort of crossed. And it was awesome. And it said, I'm not procrastinating. I am waiting for divine inspiration. And so I don't know if that has given me some sense of it's okay to procrastinate over the years, but sometimes I recognize that it's actually part of the creative process. It's as much as that poster was very potentially superficial, I actually think it had a lot of wisdom in it. And one of the things is that creative process, sometimes when I don't feel like being in it, or doing something, it's because there's something noodling around in my back of my brain that is going to make whatever it is I come up with even better. So, giving yourself a little bit of leeway if that's why. Now, we can always use that as an excuse that we don't want to use it as an excuse if it's not legitimately a the reason, right? So, easy to have excuses, but what are some other reasons? You don't want to, plain and simple. I don't want to do it, which is different than like procrastinating because you don't feel like doing it right now. Don't want to is why did I say yes to do this? Why do I even think I need to do it? And maybe you don't need to do it. I remember early in the pandemic, I did a video around guilt and how so many people are feeling guilty that, they're not cleaning out their basement or they're not doing all these extra projects that they wanted to do. And it's like, you know what? Maybe you didn't make time for it before because you don't really want to do it. And maybe that's all right. So we have permission as adults, as, professionals, to say that thing that's on my list that has been transferred every day or every week on my list, I just don't want to do it. Or I don't see the priority of doing it. I don't see the importance of doing it. The next piece might be related to mental health. Maybe you just need a break. Maybe you know and instinctively realize you're burning out or you're just exhausted and you just don't have what it takes to get up and go. So if it's a priority and you don't have time what it takes to get up and go right now, then you gotta be okay with, okay, when am I gonna do it? And if it's important and you can't do it right now, is there a time when you can actually schedule it down the road that would be exceptionally helpful for you? Or like that would make it a better, like you'll actually get it done. Then there's the piece around the reason you might be procrastinating could be some emotion that's attached to it. So fear or, embarrassment or like concern of any sort. Like there could be all these different emotions. I mean, I don't need to go through the emotion wheel to tell you what you may be feeling. You may know what you feel, but I think sometimes we could get so caught up in the procrastination or whatever barrier to performance we want to talk that it becomes a pattern and we don't even interrupt the pattern to go, wait a second, why am I actually doing this? And like getting in touch and being like, what is the real reason? Okay. So that could be it. The other piece that I think is so important and the reason you could be procrastinating could be because you don't know how to do the thing that you've got to do. And that happens to me a lot. Okay, so if I do this, so when I notice that I'm procrastinating, I will immediately ask, what's the real issue? Like it's the first step in the critical thinking checklist called the rapid fire resilience rundown. What's the real issue? And sometimes when I look at it, it's like, okay, do I not want to do it? Do I not have all the pieces and I need a little bit more for the creative process? Am I burned out and I'm just exhausted and I can't rally right now for this? Or is there some emotion I have attached to it? Like I'm fearful that if I do this, it's not going to work, or, I'm just sick of always trying to do all this stuff and never, getting this big carrot thing that's out there, this elusive, like I want to, grow my audience, all of that. And then it's like, oh, why do I bother? That can be, and then of course I have to think of all the great things going on, even though those big goals haven't been met. And so I run through this, but then I think, well, do I not know how to do it? And if that's the case, then I bite size, I have to look at it a little bit more. Like, do I really just not know how to do it or do I not have the resources to do it? So, for example, I had to do some paperwork for my benefits and I procrastinated on that for 3 weeks. It has, and actually, this is why this came to mind because I do a task circle if you've ever seen my work. So, it looks like this, right? Where I've got all my different buckets of priority and what I have to get done. And I put the things there. And I noticed the last several, there were certain tasks that were never coming off the list. And that paperwork piece was one of them. And so the truth is I had to go and find the right forms, right? That was it. So it felt like a huge deal. It took me 4 minutes when I finally did it. And so that's part of the thinking as well, right? Like, what do I not know how to do? Now, there are other things like if you caught my accidental live stream earlier this afternoon, which I have deleted, I think, from all channels, it's because I'm trying to figure out a technology and I've been trying to do this for a while and I haven't quite got it right. And the people who've given me advice have not quite given me anything um, that is making sense and actually working. So it's really frustrating. And so I'm doing my best, but I procrastinated on that. I was going to focus on it this weekend. I didn't because, take back your weekends. And I'm like, today's not the day, but I'll do it today. Okay, I'm rambling, as I sometimes do in the lockdown lift up, but I hope it helps you. So, what can we actually do about it? Understanding, so critical, the self awareness, what it is. So, take the bigger things. And what I have found really helpful is really just like creating a little mind map. So, I'll go, one example I will have used in the past is when I used to have the podcast, right? So I'd put down podcast on the list and it would be like, oh, I got to get to that because it felt so heavy, right? But then I was like, okay, here are the 10 steps that are part of getting the podcast. So if I do these 10 little steps, you know what will happen is I will have a podcast launched. So it was like, okay, create artwork, choose, I mean, I forget what it used to be. I haven't done it in over a year, but it was like trying to just get through and figure out like what are the pieces of the puzzle that are really, really simple. 5 to 15 minutes each. And so, for example, like what I did with this paperwork stuff was, find, um, like I just wrote it out into like little things, like maybe each one was a minute. But you know what? When you're procrastinating on something important and you don't want to do it because you don't know how to do it, the easier you can make it, the better. Which brings me to my next strategy, which is play a game with yourself. So for me, it's like I make it seem so simple because it's like I put it into like 1 or 5 minute little tasks. And it's like, okay, well, I can get one done. And then once you get one done, once you get started, you know, law of motion, right? When something is in motion, it's a lot easier to stay in motion, really works. But that gamification in your own mind, if that works for you. So after I get this done, I get to go do this. Or, once I get this little bit done, I'm going to reward myself however you would like to reward yourself. The other piece is you might want to flip it. So if you're not feeling the juju to do something that you really want to get done, but you know you have to get it done, then why not go out in nature? Why not have a little dance party? Why not do something to shift up your juju? And then when you do that, then you come back with the intention of as soon as I get back in the house, I am going to go straight into that project. No checking the phone, no anything. Just I'm going all in. All right. If any of this is resonating with you, please send me a comment, share, and I'd love to hear from you, your tips, because there are lots of tips that can help us with this kind of thing. This is just my thinking, right? You might have some really cool ways to build on this content, and I'm totally open to that, to making it a collective. So the next piece is the thinking about the bigger purpose, why you need to get it done. That can often inspire me, like, oh, I really care about this client, I really care about this thing that's happening. And so that will sometimes push me into action, just doing that. Simon Sinek says start with why. And sometimes that works for some people, sometimes it doesn't work for others, right? You got to find and play to know what's going to work best for you to get you into action. I love a good deadline. I don't know about you, but that's a game I can play. And it's a type of good stress. The challenge is that when you make a deadline that doesn't like logically make sense. So, for example, when I used to write my column, I wrote 4 columns a week for the London Free Press, did that for years. And there is like my deadline, no matter what, I have 4 days a week. Was it Tuesday? It ran Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday newspapers. So my deadline was 3 o'clock Monday, 3 o'clock Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I mean, you got that, right? The day before. So if I started my column at 6 a.m. in the morning, which I used to do, and I started like just going through and doing a whole bunch of stuff. Here, one sec, I got a message. Can't find you on LinkedIn, but watching from Facebook. Okay, cool. Greg, I gotcha. All right. I don't know what's going on because I might have turned all the live stuff off and not done it. But anyway. Okay, so see, I'm not very good at multitasking. I see all the messages coming up. Betsy, you've sent me about 10, so I see those coming up, which is great too. Figure that out later. All right, I'll procrastinate. No, I'm teasing. I'm just focusing. So looking at the wise deadline. So back to the newspaper. Then I figured out if I started my column at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I would end up submitting for 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Now where deadlines backfire is if I started at 2:45, there was no publishable column that was available to be printed in 15 minutes. Like I could throw something together, but wouldn't be very good. I wouldn't have been proud of it. And so looking at deadlines and saying, okay, if this thing needs to get done, what do I need to do with this, right? Like, how can I do it? And that's where accountability is so great. With some of my coaching clients over the years, one thing I've done is I've like, depending on what level of coaching they are with me, I will say, okay, if you, like, I call it sort of triage support. So if you are like having a tough day and you got to get something done, they can text me and say, listen, I got to get this thing done. I'm not in the mood. We'll get on the phone 5-10 minutes, not even, and we'll walk them through. And then, like, here are the steps. What are the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the 15-minute increments that you need to take to make that happen? And then, okay, check in with me at 5 o'clock, at 4 o'clock, at 3 o'clock, whenever. Or tomorrow morning, got to have that done by 9:30 tomorrow morning. And so having that deadline really can inspire the focus. And so use that very strategically. At least that's how I do it. And that accountability piece, who can you call to say, listen, I'm not getting this done. I got to get it done. Hold me accountable. I'm going to have it done by X. Because that just like laser focuses us, right? When we can have that somebody else expecting us to get something done. And then the last little piece before I go, I have a call at 3:45, so excited about that call, is, and I'm just looking at my list. So there were so there were 7 things that had come from, over 3 lists. So my rule is if I've had to redo my circle, which is my written piece of paper that has my priority tasks on it, and something transitions over, and I redo them, like, I don't know, sometimes once a week, sometimes every other day, depends how much is on it and how much activity is getting off of it. So because I like it kind of nice and clean, right? Like, so I can see what I have to do. And so if I have to transfer it 3 or 4 times, I look at it and go, why am I not doing it? So back to that opening spot. And then I look and I'm like, okay, either I'm going to do this or I'm not. And I might just get it off the list. And I have done that and allowed myself the grace to say, you know what, I think the reason it's not pushing through is because it doesn't really fit. And I may put it in a parking lot, which basically is my way of saying, I don't want to forget about this, but I don't want it on my active list right now, clogging up my brain and making me feel like I'm failing because I'm not getting that off my list. Okay? Play the game in our mind. So what I did was I looked at those 7 things. I did the amount of time they were going to take me. Most of them were pretty quick. Some of them weren't. And even though I have other priorities that need to happen today, I knew that if I allowed those to go another day, they were never going to happen. And so I just took an hour to be like, okay, I got to get through as many of these 7 as humanly possible. And that focus, again, was so critical and so important. And I found it really helpful to get rolling on it. So I hope that helps you. Because you know what? The truth is, procrastinating drains your energy, and we don't even necessarily realize it. I remember I gave a speech for virtual speech for a group of managers, and I got a call from one of them afterwards, and she said, for 4 years since we've moved into this house, I have walked by this disorganized area of boxes that has just every day been this little twist to the knife, twist to the knife, twist to the knife. And she's like, annoying, making me feel like I'm failing. And she said it was such an emotional thing of annoyance. And it was every day because I walked by it every day. She said, I took your advice and we'd gone through the whole, program right at that point. And she said, this weekend, I just said 1 box. I'm going to start with 1 box. What's that little 15-minute job I can do? So by the whole end of the weekend, I had it all organized and completely free. And she's like, I can't believe I spent so much time emotionally connected to not doing a task. And so often when we procrastinate on something, it's a small job or it's a little piece of the puzzle. And again, talking to myself, right? Because I know this stuff. Like I know it. I've proven it to myself over and over and over and over again. And something that takes you 15 minutes, but you procrastinate on for 3 weeks is not something that took you 15 minutes. It took you 3 weeks plus 15 minutes of emotional and mental draining of capacity, which adds to our stress levels, which puts us at a higher risk of burnout, which contributes to the languishing that we're talking about now. At least I'm talking about. A lot of people have read that article from the New York Times. If you have not, please go back into my feed, check it out, because I think so many of us can relate to it. And so we just have to, every day make a decision. Yesterday I procrastinated. Great. What am I going to do today? Am I going to allow that again? If the answer is yes, great. Do it without any guilt. But if the answer is no, then what are you going to do? And I hope something that I have shared with you will inspire you to make it happen. Now, I'm just going to go over to Facebook here and check if there are any comments that I need to. Great. Greg, Tony, hello, hello, hello. Great to see you. Kim Sargent, awesome to see you here too. And Stephen, really cool. Oh, and Rob too. Well, I'm so privileged to have all of you here. That's amazing. So let's keep going. I don't lockdown lift up every Monday to Friday. Different ideas, different things that I'm working on. Just trying to help people have a little hope, a little levity, a little inspiration as we languish our way. I don't know if it's a verb. I think it is. Through this lockdown. Whatever you're going through, I hope you're okay. So thank you. Oh, Andrea came. Oh, I don't want to leave quite yet, but I have to because I have a call in 5 minutes. But Andrea, awesome to see you, and I hope everybody has the best day ever. Bye for now. So thank you.